In our world, we are all holding on to so much trauma that it's hard for us to operate from our authentic selves. We're so busy holding all these plates up that there's no time for us to really even know who we really are. And his theory posits that this actually happens in the womb, and that the trauma our mothers carry is then passed to us in utero.
This is episode number 670 with Cynthia Marks. We are talking today about how to transform love, healing, and human connection. We had the most incredible conversation about falling in love later in life, about Cynthia's relationship with a therapist who was 36 years older, who died at the age of 100. I mean, it is an incredible story of hope and love and so much more. You don't want to miss this. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Weiner. I am a certified dating and relationship coach. And every week I bring you expert advice and real conversations about love, connection, and healthy relationships. At Last First Date Radio, we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. So for more information on my coaching programs, my courses and books, you can go to lastfirstdate.com. And before I bring on Cynthia, I just want to remind anybody who's not yet a member of my amazing Facebook group called Your Last First Date to join us there. It's for women over 40 who are looking for a positive place of support. It is highly supervised with a lot of amazing guidelines, incredible monitors. Join us over there at Your Last First Date. My guest today is Cynthia Marks. She's the host of the podcast And Now Love. It's a podcast that's inspired by the psychoanalytic teachings of her late husband, Dr. Bernard Bail. Through intimate conversations and dream explorations, she helps listeners uncover unconscious emotional imprints and transform their understanding of love, healing, and human connection. And she and I were just talking before the podcast. There's so much to talk about. So I'm so excited to have you here, Cynthia.
Thank you, Sandy. Me too. I mean, I can't believe we were going on and on. We did have to stop ourselves so that we could share some of this with your listeners.
Yeah, it was a lot of juicy stuff, and I'm sorry I didn't hit record sooner, but we're going to try and recapture some of it. But I would love for you to start with just a little bit about the podcast and what inspired you to start it. You told me a little bit before we started, and what is the core message behind your podcast?
Sure, thank you. So the podcast is really based on the theories of my husband, my late husband. He passed away 4 years ago, and his name was Dr. Bail, and he had a psychoanalytic theory that helps us get to the bottom of who we really are if you pay attention to what it is that he's described as a method for us to get to that place. So in order for us to all be our best selves, we must learn how to love ourselves. In our world, we are all holding on to so much trauma that it's hard for us to operate from our authentic selves. We're so busy holding all these plates up that there's no time for us to really even know who we really are. And his theory posits that this actually happens in the womb, and that the trauma our mothers carry is then passed to us in utero unknowingly and not done in a way to harm us, but they carry trauma themselves that was passed on to them by their mother, by their ancestors, and it's ongoing. And until we can figure out how to stop the process, none of us will be able to sort of live our authentic lives. And through the course of studying dreams, that is the inroad, that is the key to our unconscious. Bernard discovered this theory that we are all beaten down by the trauma we carry. And we unconsciously say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to let myself just sit over here while I'm busy protecting all this trauma. I have to try really hard to keep these doors closed. I don't want to let that trauma out. If I keep it safe, then there'll be no harm and I can protect the status quo. And so you're busy doing that rather than living your life. You're busy trying to make sure that whatever your mother needed, you're providing. And that is unrealistic. It's a fantasy. It's unconscious, but we want to keep our mother and our father safe and comfortable. I'm going to become an attorney because that's what my parents want. I don't really want that. I mean, it doesn't sit right with me, but I don't know that I'm not allowed to have another idea. I would really like to fall in love and have a partner, but I'm not really lovable. That's what I learned in utero, or that's what I learned as a child. There's no time for you. You don't matter. You don't exist. And that is absolutely not true. We are all based in love and we all carry love. Just we've covered it up so much that we don't even understand that it's there. And we do accept the status quo on and on and on in our lives. This is all there is. This is what I get. This is all I'm entitled to. No, no, no. You can be so much more fulfilled. And once you figure out how to love yourself, then oh my gosh, the love you can give others and the love that you can receive is amazing, amazing. And it's real and authentic, but you can't really, really get there until you love yourself.
People don't really know what that means. And so I think that it's like a nice thing to hear, but a lot of people don't really understand either authenticity or love yourself. And especially if somebody just tells you, go ahead and love yourself, because that's like what does that even mean?
Right.
So tell us what it means to you and a little bit about how you healed what your
Sure.
healing journey was about.
So, as you just said, people must have said that to me, you know, 37 times through the course of my life. Well, all you have to do is learn how to love yourself. Sure. Or somebody says, I love you. What does that really mean? Or if I say I love you to somebody else, what does that mean? And why do I look at that image that comes out before Thanksgiving on the cover of a magazine that shows this happy family sitting at a dining table with the most beautiful turkey and they're all smiling and laughing and having a great time? And that is love. But have I ever had a Thanksgiving like that? No. And even if I did, would it be instilled with this thing that we call love? Through the course of studying, talking about my dreams with my husband, and because of all of the knowledge he had, he, in fact, was a practicing psychoanalyst up until the age of 100. And he was practicing via this methodology that he created, I would say, for the last 35 years or so of his practicing. So he was really well versed. Um, we would talk about my dreams, and it is his goal as a therapist to help me come to conclusions. He's not there to offer conclusions. And again, we're just talking as husband and wife. I need to come up with what the images mean to me in terms of a feeling. And through the course of that, I discovered that all of the things, many of the things that I took as my reality were not. I had just crafted them. So, for example, I had had very early on as a teenager an experience that was pretty unhealthy. And I equated that to love. And I carried that with me for decades, that if ever there is love, it has to equal that experience, which was, in fact, unhealthy. But I had turned it around and made it as the sort of North Star for love. And what that did was help me continue to fail again and again and again. And when I recognized through the course of my dreams that I was living in this falsehood and that that was trauma that I was carrying and protecting and supporting. And then I'd be able to talk about it. I was able to release it. And it was one less thing that I had to be burdened with. And this work is hard. It takes some time. But over the course of time, I released burden after burden after burden. The things that I thought were North Stars again, so many of them were just falsehoods. I would hear my father's voice, my father's deep, harsh voice in my head whenever I needed to make a decision. What would my father think? I'm not alone there, I'm sure. What would my father think? It was automatically, I said that to myself unconsciously. And after discussing my dreams and the imagery and the thoughts associated with them, I heard that voice again and I said, "Okay, Dad, thank you. I appreciate your help, but I'm going to do this on my own now, from now on." And I don't have that voice in my head anymore. I don't have my father walking around as my guiding light. I am my guiding light. And for me, discovering who you really are is undoing all these falsehoods that you've put upon yourself or that have been put upon you over the course of time from your relationships very early on. And you get to the place where you think, wow, I don't have to do it that way. Wow, I could fall in love with that person over there. I don't have to come up with all these excuses for why he's not right for me because I don't think highly of myself. I don't have to be an attorney. I really, really, really wanted to be an artist, whatever it might be. And you get to a place where you can work from feeling and you can work from your heart rather than all of this trauma that you carried. Does that make any sense?
Of course it does, because that's what I do for a living. But I mean, I don't do dream work, but I totally understand the false beliefs that we carry, the limiting
Yes.
beliefs that we carry, the truths that we think are true that are actually just a belief. And I think that so many of us are led by our thoughts that we think are the truth.
Mhm.
And we don't realize the power we have in shifting thoughts and shifting beliefs. But I love how you were able to identify your father's voice as not just the leading voice that told you what to do, but the fact that you had to rely on an outside source instead of an inside source
Yeah.
for your guidance. And when you shift that and know that you have so much power to guide your life, to make good decisions, and you make better decisions because it's guided by you. It's like when you said to your husband, wanted you to find your own conclusions. We can't tell people how they should, what their life should be because we haven't lived their life and we haven't had all those lived experiences. And so that's a wonderful thing that he empowered you to form your own conclusions based on the images. So I totally get it. And I love how powerful that whole experience was for you.
And I am not alone. Certainly, his patients also experience the same. And there are a few therapists here in Los Angeles whose practice is based on his methodology. And those patients are also saying exactly what I've said. And it's so precious. I want this for everyone, of course. As to you, it sounds like we're talking about the same thing. And I it just is life changing to really begin to understand who you are. And once you start to tick away at those things that you thought were your reality and realize, wait a minute, that is not reality. It is fascinating. It's almost a puzzle. It's like, I want to find out more. What else is there about me? What else have I been pretending? I can't even put words to it. It's not like it's magic, but it's as if you're on a continual journey of discovery. And the more you discover, the more open you are with others, the more people feel invited in. And I've even had friends who've said to me, I liked you before this, but you are so different. And I knew you were in there. And I was kind of disappointed that I couldn't get to that. We had, sort of this type of relationship, and now we have this type of relationship. And it's just marvelous. It's not just romantic relationship, it's all relationships. Those with my friends, my children.
Hmm. When people hire me, they say, I know you can't guarantee that I'll find love, but you will guarantee that I will change all my relationships. And that's the guarantee. It's
Yeah.
like you will start with you and then everything will ripple out from there because you've taken the masks off. You're
Mhm.
getting deeper with people. You're able to be less guarded. You're more open and people want openness. I work a lot with women who are very guarded, who can come across as harsh and closed off when they're really just yearning to be connected and to get closer.
Yes.
And so this work is so, so crucial. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last first date to learn more and claim this offer. I would love to understand a little bit more about the dreams. And are they guided dreams? Are they lucid dreams? Like how does that all work?
Many of us say, well, I don't even dream. So check that off the list. You can't help me. Well, we all dream. And we can even help ourselves remember our dreams if you just start to say, perhaps when you go to bed at night, you know what, self, I'd really like to start remembering my dreams. And many people say just by doing that for several nights in a row, they start to remember at least tidbits. And you can then write them down. And if you're working with a therapist who works with this methodology, you'll come to them and they'll say, let's talk about your dream. So the dream does not have to be, it is not right on. You might be having a dream about 3 days ago, you wore a yellow dress and you found yourself stuck in a taxi that was also yellow and you couldn't get out and the doors were locked and you got frustrated and the sun was shining. And that sounds like gobbledygook, but it isn't. It isn't at all. And if you're with a trained analyst who knows how to talk you through this and question the different parts of it, well, where were you going on last Thursday? What does the color yellow remind you of? Or how do you feel when you're in a taxi? Or why would you be locked in? You start to have this conversation. Like, I don't know. I remember I wore a yellow dress every spring when I was a kid. The doors were locked because I remember in school, they always locked the doors. And you start to relate to feelings. You come to feelings and you start to remember, wow, I remember my mom used to always say to me, you can't go out of the house unless you're wearing a yellow dress and I'm going to lock the doors or whatever it is. And you begin to find the things that frighten you, make you feel less than, traumatize you, hurt you. I mean, the things that make you happy are not what we're going to talk about because you're happy. You don't need work in the happy zone. You need work in the upset zone. And so our dreams are usually there to open a window for us and say, hey, look, here's some things that you've been doing. You've been living your life like this. And have a look at this little window that I've just shared with you. Because if you let yourself in there, into your unconscious, you're going to discover the trauma that you're holding on to that you don't need to hold on to, that's molding you, making your life, directing you, And you are not doing it on your own, and you cannot do it until you release all of that trash.
And there's a lot of trash.
There's a lot of trash.
We
But
need those compactors, the
yes,
garbage disposal.
but the
Yeah,
dream is really, really the key to your unconscious. And of course, Freud was sort of the master of the dream. And Bernard just took it a few steps further.
yeah. I do dream heavily. I don't write them down and I forget them almost immediately. And I always thought I should keep like a dream journal next to my bed. And I think I'm inspired to do that now. And I had a colonoscopy recently and they put you under that deep sleep. And I had a very vivid dream as I was waking up. And I don't think I remember that from other colonoscopies or other times I've been under anesthesia, but it was like I was really happy and I was having this like amazing. It was like, why are you waking me up? But and that's what made it so disorienting, I think, also when I was dreaming and it was such a short period of time. I mean, I think you're asleep for maybe a half hour, if that.
Yeah.
And and that's a drug-induced sleep, but it's a nice drug. But I want to also talk about the things that have happened for you through this process. And so we were talking before about limiting beliefs, and before we started recording, you were telling me how you had a 36-year age gap between
Mhm.
you and your husband,
Yes.
and some of the beliefs that you had that people were going to judge you, and so those are, again, people will judge us for all the decisions we make, and I'm wondering if some of this dream work helped you work through the judgments of others or your own worry about being with somebody who was that much older.
Yes, it did. So I, to my own detriment, lost a lot of time with this man that I loved because I was so fearful of judgment in the beginning. So once we realized that we were truly deeply in love, which means I had already made some progress in terms of figuring out who I really was. Because 10 years before I met him, there would be no way in the world that I would allow myself to be in love with a man like this. Too old, let's say, first of all, too well rounded, too smart, too elegant, all of the things that I would want: smart, elegant, well rounded, Renaissance man. But I innately knew I didn't deserve those things. So I didn't look for men like that. But through the course of learning more about me and what sort of standards were mine versus the standards that were perceived, I opened up enough to fall in love with this man. And then, of course, there were more challenges. Now I'm in love with this man, but it's so wrong. It's so wrong. I'm such a bad person. What will my family think? What will my clients think? I'm an interior designer.
Hmm.
How can I walk down the street with him? And man, that was tough. I mean, it was clear that we were very different in age. And he was so vibrant and so with it on so many levels. It was through the course of my dreams again that I discovered that love and how precious it is so much more important than any judgment that may exist or any judgment that I may perceive exists. And it's more the perception of it than the reality of it, although there is both. But learning to love myself allows me to pursue what I know is best for me and healthy and does no harm to anyone. And people can judge or not.
Yeah, we let so much get in the way of our relationships, and we often don't even recognize love when it shows up in our face.
Mhm.
And we also focus on the wrong questions, I found. I was talking to a friend of mine who's dating somebody, but not dating him. She's in a in a friends with benefits, which is what she really wants because she's just gotten out of something and it's all she can handle. And this guy obviously wants more with her. And I've told her that from the beginning. He's like been writing her love letters
Aw.
and he's telling her, oh, I was just lonely. It's okay. I won't write them anymore. But I don't want a relationship either. And so she'll say to me, but he says that, but then he wants to introduce me to his friends. Why does he want to do that? And I said, what he says and what he does are not matching. And you need to stop asking why he's doing what he's doing and ask yourself, how does this feel to me?
Hmm.
What do I feel? And that is something that we struggle with so much. It's always, let's try to psychoanalyze the other person instead
Yeah.
of, is this working for me? And so when we start asking, is this working for me? And how do I feel? And how does my body feel in that person's presence? And what side of me does he bring out? And all the important questions, then the way that somebody looks and shows up can be completely different from what we thought it was going to be. And I have found the best relationships, and so many of my clients have had relationships that are surprise packages. They're not who they thought they were going to meet or how they thought they were going to meet them.
Mm. Yes, that's so true. I can attest.
Yeah. And you said that you're dating somebody again. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that, how that all came about and some of the limiting beliefs that got in the way of that relationship maybe not happening.
When Bernard was close to death, he said, like many people do to the person they're in love with, I don't want you to think this is the end of your romantic life. And he said, one thing I'd like you to remember is don't look for me again. He didn't say that in a narcissistic way. He said, this has been a beautiful, beautiful love, but don't try to mimic this. Go find love in a different way. And that was so freeing because before he said that, I was thinking, geez, Louise, this is so specific. It's so unusual, this relationship we have. At least it was for me. I'm never going to find anything like this again. And that was it. I'm never going to find anything like this again. Well, come to find out, I didn't need to find something else like that again. And so, after a period of time, after Bernard passed away, I finally decided, well, here's what happened. I was reading the New York Times one morning, and they had a section on best dating sites for seniors. And I thought, how do they know? And so I read it and then I thought, okay, well, what the hell? Let me see. What does it take to sign up here? And so I signed up and I clicked send and I closed it up and I didn't think about it for a few days. And then I opened it up and it was like, there's all these responses, and it was kind of fun, reading through all of these. And anyway, I went on several dates, but as an aside, I eventually met the man that I'm seeing now. And I would say that before meeting Bernard, had I met the man I'm dating now, I would have figured out a way to run because I wouldn't think I was good enough for him. He is so kind and so smart and so giving of who he really is. I would have run. And I don't think I would have felt like I deserved that kind of kindness at all. And that's just because of how I grew up and what I learned I needed to do to survive, which was insulate myself and be guarded and not make noise, not expect any niceties at all, just take care of myself. So, through the course of all of my millions of hours of conversations with Bernard, I learned and discovered that I am entitled.
Yeah. First of all, I love that he gave you permission to date somebody and to have it not be him,
Yes.
not be like him, because I find that happens a lot that people feel I'm never going to meet somebody just like the person I lost. And if you're looking for that, you're going to never find it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I was
So,
planning to do that, and it was clear to me that that was highly unlikely. And so I imagined myself not being in a relationship again. So it was a real gift that he said that to me and that I paid attention,
mhm.
that I heard his words.
Yes, and understood them.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that you were open and you couldn't have met the second partner either 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, we have to be ready for the kind of love that I think is possible, more possible as we get older and hopefully wiser and
Yes.
know ourselves better.
Hmm.
Then when I look at young people who are making decisions based on somebody's income and living in a nice neighborhood, and it's all superficial stuff. And
Hmm.
we don't even know. I mean, I certainly didn't know. I didn't know. I thought I knew. I had a checklist that
Right.
seemed to work, but it
Right.
didn't. And so, how would you define healthy love?
Well, I love that you just spoke about the difference between, love at an older age and the love of our youth, because I think it is true. We have a checklist. There's all these things that we need to attend to as young adults, the right jobs, the right neighborhood, where are we going to raise our kids? How many kids are we going to have? All those things are so important. And once we've done all of those things, then we can, how nice to not have those things resting on our shoulders, and we can come to a place of sort of more clarity. I think I don't need to be here with you. I only want to be here with you. I don't care how much money you make. I don't have to think about what college my kids are going to. It's it's as if we have more time. We have more time to really get to know each other. And we're not so busy figuring out how to attend to the day. And you
Yeah.
asked a question I don't think I answered.
No, that's a really important distinction between younger love and somebody who's dating later in life, where a lot of
Yeah.
people just look at the downside. There's so many upsides to dating later in life. Let's talk about healthy love in general. That was the question. What does healthy love look like to you? And if somebody is listening and wants to experience it, a lot of people actually have never felt like they've been in a healthy, loving relationship.
Mhm.
What kind of advice would you give?
Well, it goes back to what I was talking about before, and you had made a very good point in that it's so easy to throw around this word love. And many of us have not experienced it either romantically or, well, or otherwise. But I do feel like if we begin to understand what the difference is between who we really are and who we've trained ourselves to be in order to survive in the world, we will discover that we are lovable and that we are capable of loving. And I truly believe that each of us has a base of love, and most of us don't really get to that place. And so we are pretending to be in love, pretending to receive love. And again, if we can undo this trauma, we can get to this healthy place. And if we love ourselves, such a common thing to say these days, we can understand what it means to love others. Then, once you know that feeling of love for yourself, then you can feel love for others and you can feel when they're loving you back. And there will always be people in this world who don't get to that place easily. But if you come to the world and relationships where you're honestly offering love, you're going to elevate others. They're going to want to be around you. They're going to be curious. They're going to be loving that you are interested in them, that you look them in the eye, that you really feel empathy. And and that is one thing that I also discovered once I understood more about who I really am. And I'm it's a big work in progress, was the difference between real empathy and the idea of empathy. I think we understand that empathy should exist in all our relationships, but to really feel it is a different thing. And now, for example, when somebody shares a story of great joy or even of sorrow with me, I feel it rushing through my body. I get goosebumps or chills or tears in my eyes. And it could be the happiest thing or the saddest thing. And I think that happens on a daily basis now. And I think before I understood enough about who I really am, I was operating on the idea of empathy, on the idea of love. And it's a curious thing. And I'm sure we don't all perceive those things in the same way, but we have the perception that we've created of what those things mean, and we operate as such.
Those are all great points. I mean, I think revealing who we are at our core, being open to love, being open to loving others and receiving love, elevating others. There's a glow that happens when you really are operating from that place. And like you said, you're feeling things much deeper. You're feeling true empathy for others. You know, a lot of people call themselves empaths,
Yeah.
and I think that word has become so overused. And a lot of times, empaths are really codependent people who just think that it's their job to take care of other people's
Yes.
emotions.
Yes.
I think that's a big misunderstanding. That is not our job. It
No,
is wonderful to have feelings and to care about others, but also to know where you begin and end and where the other person begins and ends. And you can't have a healthy relationship with somebody if you're always feeling like you're in charge of their emotional well-being.
I agree. Yes. And I think uh, empathy is, I mean, it's clearly such a human factor. It's not a responsibility. It's it's just a feeling and it gives you the ability to communicate on a different level. So when my friend Lori, shares with me this devastation that she's going through, I really, really feel it because I care deeply about her. I love her and I can't change her situation. And I even if I could, she wouldn't, she wouldn't want me to, but I want her to be able to share with me. And I feel so connected to her by hearing her story and just letting her let loose, some of her feelings and her upset. And there's nothing about me that wants to undo her or change her.
That's a beautiful way to describe empathy. So many people struggle to fix somebody when they share a story. They feel that they have to make it better or tell people, I'm worried about you, which to me just always feels bad. I don't want people to lose sleep over me, to worry about me, to stay up at night thinking that I can't handle, basically. But even just asking somebody what do they need, that you're here for them. Like I have a very close friend who um, she when she heard I was getting my colonoscopy, she lives an hour away. She said, do you have somebody to take you home? I'll come and get you. I'm like, that's so kind of you. And my son can do it, but like she will be there. I know that she is the person who will be there no matter what. If I get a cold, she'll make chicken soup. She will show up and she will listen and she will not give unsolicited advice. And it's a rare thing to have that kind of friendship, that somebody just holds space for you, who listens, who sees you. I mean, I think that's what we all yearn for.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
um it's interesting that you say, if someone were to say to you, I'm worried about you, that almost puts a level of responsibility back on you. Now I have to take care of that person.
Exactly.
Way I can take care of that person is by clamming up, is by pretending I'm okay. And that's not really empathy from the other person.
Right. Right. Exactly. I mean, I had to have this conversation with my mother many times where she would say, I didn't sleep all night worrying about you. And I'm like, now I'm worried about you. I don't think that's
Yeah, that's
helpful at all. No.
oh,
And I said, Mom, I'm okay.
yeah.
Please trust that I'm okay
Mhm.
and go back to sleep. Like,
Right.
I don't want to think about you not sleeping now. And
But
it
then,
is, it's putting the burden back on the other person. It's not helpful.
no. But did you find yourself either consciously or unconsciously choosing not to share with her because you didn't want her to worry about you?
Well, it's a complicated relationship. So I don't share with her because she gives unsolicited advice, because she doesn't
Mhm.
really hear me, because everything I share, she makes about herself.
Mhm.
I'll share, like, I'm going for a colonoscopy, Mom. Oh, yeah, I remember when I went for a colonoscopy. And I'm
Mm.
like, okay, what does that have to do with me?
Right.
So I don't, she's not really capable of being the guide that I would like. And so I have learned not to be as angry as I used to be,
Mhm.
and to accept, which is hard, and to mourn the loss of the mother I wish I had, and to be the mother I wish I had. And so I think that's an empowering thing that we can all do, is like, if we grow up with mother wounds, which most people have,
Mhm.
and we talked about that at the beginning of this episode, that there's so much we can do to heal. And I think that's what's important. So I'm going to ask you my final question, and you kind of answered it, but I'm curious whether you have more to say about this. But what are your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date?
Good question, given your podcast. Let go of what you think is judgment, and let go of your preconceived notions about what you're entitled to. And even if you feel like you've got a lot of work to do in terms of figuring out who you really are authentically, take a jump off the diving board. Don't limit yourself. Let go.
I love that. Let go. I was just talking to an artist friend who said her whole journey now is letting go. She said, I have all the background, all the academic knowledge, and now I'm working on letting go. And
Mm,
I think it's so much a part of our journey as we get older, and we realize, stop holding so tightly to the things we think other people want us to be and do. And also let go of thinking that we have to be fully healed to be out there dating and be lovable.
yeah,
So let go. I
let
love it.
go. Well, and actually, when Bernard was coming up with this theory, he got to a place where it was just as you say. He was walking the walk. He had all the best therapists. He knew all about Freud and Klein and all of the analysts that you would want to study. And he still was like, this isn't getting to me. I'm not therefore getting to my patients. If I can't walk the walk, how can I help my clients walk their own path? And so finally, he got to a place of being really upset and distressed and sad, and life was complicated. He wasn't sure he was even meant to live life. And he just said, forget it. I'm throwing everything out at the window. I'm letting it all go. I'm going to sit here with my patients. I'm going to write down everything they tell me about their dreams. I'm going to do that over and over and over again. And he finally came to this methodology just by letting go of what he knew was the path he was supposed to walk, according to who? Him, I suppose. But he then found this other fabulous way to treat his patients. And he even found, finally, love with me.
Hey, all good gifts, beautiful gifts. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia. This has just been a fabulous conversation about love, about healing, about the possibilities, hope for the future, hope for people dating in midlife and beyond. And just letting go of all the garbage in our lives.
Yeah.
So, yes, tell us, give us one link where people can find you, and the rest of the links will be in the show notes.
Thank you very much. So if you go to our website, andnowlove.com, you can connect up with any of the media sites, your favorite, where you go to watch podcasts. And you can find us also on Instagram and all those guys too. And thank you so much
Okay.
for doing what you do. It's fabulous. And everyone who's listening must really be learning a lot from you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening today. If you love our show, please give us a high rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Share the show, follow us. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.